Little popcorn, 1 or 2 word responses. Why do you monitor, or why do you think others get involved with monitoring? What is the motivation behind this? I mean, you've taken your time, and you got the mosquito on the neck, and you're out in the woods, and it's hot, and you just saw a copperhead or whatever. Why are you monitoring? You're crazy, you know. Most people in the state don't monitor. So, little terms. Why? What is the motivation for monitoring?
I live on a pristine lake, and my dam keeps that way.
Okay, there you go. Commitment to a water body, love of the water, wanting to protect, wanting to restore. Okay, others?
And that's the reason why we started Water Watch, because at the local level you care.
Yeah.
You bring in people from the state who don't care.
Okay. Local buy-in, the one with the greatest vested interest. This is my water. Yes, sir.
Well, DOC is interested because MS4 require monitoring. I want to learn more about monitoring and what's going on.
That's good. Yeah, we'll be touching on that a little bit also. Yeah, very good.
Damaged stream in my neighborhood.
Okay.
Needs restoration.
Okay. Very good. Rita?
I'm embarrassed because that man over there asked me to join Save Our Salgahatchee for many, many years, and I kept on coming up with good excuses until I found out that a grant for it was going to be located right across the creek from my community. And I was in the very next workshop, and I committed to turn in monthly data, because if I didn't get, I'm not a chemist, I'm just a normal person, but I thought one thing that got through to me in that workshop was if I turned in data every month over long-term data sets, there could be trends seeing whether my water body was getting worse or better or staying the same, and I wanted to see if they were hurting my creek.
Great.
My creek. Thank you, Tom, and I'm sorry it took Water Rock to get me in Save Our Salgahatchee.
Born and raised on a small creek. I live on a creek now, and our creek I live on now goes into the Tennessee River, and also we get the drinking water just before it enters the Tennessee River. So I really had an interest in it.
Right. Okay. So we've got the interest in the love of the water, the beauty, or the property value, or and drinking water, maybe health and safety issues. Grandkids swimming in the water, is it safe? That kind of thing. Okay.
Well, I found that I might see the creek, might drive over it, but I didn't have any idea what was actually going on with the water. So it helped me get that. But a secondary thing that forces me to actually get out there and see the creek and be in it every month.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is different because, you know, it's there and it's not
Right.
about it for a month or two.
Yeah, yeah. So just exposure to the environment and all the serendipity, you know, you see things that you never expected to see. Some are just really cool. This morning, I'll even fess up, I was sitting on the toilet, and I was looking up, and I oversee my palm, and something was moving, and I thought, I don't recognize that, you know, and I was looking for my binoculars, and I've got a window screen, so I thought, do I kick out the screen? I need to look at this thing. So I ran downstairs, and I got my binoculars, and he was a great blue heron, but he was crouched real low. I thought he was a different heron. He was hunting frogs there this morning, and I thought, he goes. So, Tom?
Well, profit. I mean, that's the problem with it. Todd and I profit greatly by going down and checking the creek.
Okay, very good. And just for that, we'll double your salary. Okay, well, I hope there's other, that, of course, as the core, but, you know, some people, it's not wrong to say it's fun. It's not wrong to say I like affiliating, I like to be with people with common interests, and I enjoy the meetings, you know. When they do national surveys, one of the number one things, learning. I like to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. And these workshops, and in my data and my interactions, and here in Eric's data interpretation, it's just really enriching to me, you know. So there's many levels of why people get involved, and we're really, really grateful for all the monitors that are out there. And just to give you a few bullet points, since day one, we're coming up, you know, on 5,000 people in our state that have volunteered to go through our workshops and become certified. That's not number of certifications, because many of you have several of those. But these are individuals. These are 4,600 Alabamians that have chosen to get involved with the program over the years. It took 1,400 workshops to do that, and I feel everyone. I actually, I only feel the early years because in more recent years, over 80% of our workshops are being conducted by volunteer trainers, our veteran monitors that have become trainers. So that's a huge plus to our program. We never could keep up with the demand. In fact, the last couple of years, there's been over 100, or approximately 100 training sessions per year. So think of it, averaging almost 2 a week. Research or bacteria, chemistry, biomonitoring, workshop training of trainers, something going on. So it's gotten quite active that way. And since last year at this time, we have about 250 new. So we've been running about 250 to 350 new folks a year. We'd like to see that increase a good little bit, but we would need your help and input on that. And
Bill?
currently, yes.
Do you have any idea how many years of all the 4,600 are still actively monitored, or you?
Yeah, it's right there, 350.
Okay, that,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know what that was, of the total 4,600, or?
Yeah, of the total 4,600, we have 350 monitors today. And so what that tells us is in any given workshop, about 1 in 4 actually monitor. And we thought, well, is that a failure? Well, 3 out of 4 are leaving with a whole lot of watershed knowledge, and they never signed in blood. They just said, I'm curious, let me learn about Water Watch, let me learn about Alabama water and watershed. So it's a huge educational thrust. And then those 1 in 4 monitor. And there's a various lifespan of different groups, and they vary quite a bit. Lake groups, stream groups, coastal group, their lifespan varies a good little bit. There's all kinds of reasons, but we won't dig in. But
Yeah, just a quick question.
Sure, Tom.
On the active monitors, do you have a goal for how many active thing? I've always wondered. I'm on the database all the time, Sergio. I want to know. I appreciate it. But I see so much information, but I have no idea if you're satisfied that you're getting the kind of sampling that you really want.
Mm-hmm.
So how are we at 350 at current? Is that good, bad?
Yeah, I think 350 is good. I think just by the calls we get from other programs, other states, they want to know how in the world we keep it going for almost 18 years with 60 active groups and this level of output. So that's good. And the other, on the flip side, is 350 people don't cover 77,000 miles of streams. So there's tremendous opportunity for expansion. Your group, Lake Martin, the lake is fairly strategically covered for more, a decade and a half now. So there's a lot to be proud of. And we'll see, even at our picnic, there are many monitors that we're going to create these clubs. There, 100 sample club, 500 sample club. We have many going into the 1,000 sample club. And so we got some real solid databases out there that are good as gold. And they'll pop up and be valuable when you least expect them, like an oil spill, Well, where's that Wolf Bay data, Where's the baseline? Because these things can just happen. And it's not to be gloom and doom, but that's a huge value of those data sets in management and stewardship and so on. So we'll have all kinds of time, hopefully, to talk about this a little more. But in our groups, of course, there are some Lone Rangers, and there are people that monitor solo for a number of years. But most of you are in groups. So how many are in a Water Watch or a water-related group? Okay, so you see, again, well over half have some membership or affiliation with the groups. And this is all about that nesting thing. This was a neat workshop we did just a couple weeks ago up on Lake Wedowee with the Lake Wedowee Property Owners Association and some new folks up on the Tallapoosa, almost to the Georgia line. And in our Water Watch history, we've worked with over 260 different bona fide groups. Many of them incorporated 501c3 homeowner, boat owner groups or others. So we've had quite a lot of outreach with a variety of lake, stream, and coastal groups. We have almost 60 currently active groups. So again, you can see the attrition. People come, people go, people move, people get bad knees, whatever. And so there's always that movement, but it's quite dynamic to have 60 groups right now. And so when you think about maybe you're isolated, my little group, and we're struggling, you know, just maybe it'll be inspiring to know over the ridge, up the valley, and the next basin, 60 groups. Yeah.
Yeah, what's the oldest group?
The oldest group? Lake Watch or Lake Mars.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. The first workshop we did was with the Friends of Little River. So they were the first group to start, but they didn't continue. They went for a few years, but Lake Watch hung in there, and that's another stat that we're looking at. We have many groups that are over the decade mark, and I would say, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but we have a good number in the 15-year range now, like yours, and you know, like some of the big lake groups especially, but even SOS was 97, okay? So there's 13 years on a stream group, you know? So we're getting that decade-long experience, leadership development, and database coming on together. Since last year, we've had about 6 join us. In our heyday in the early mid-90s, we used to get 10, 12, 15 new groups a year. So this is a concern. We ask ourselves, are we saturating the market? Is just not those groups out there anymore? And then Smith Lake surprises us and says, hey, there's room for 3 groups, 4 groups, 5 groups on one big water body. So we think we still have a lot of potential there. Okay, so...
Bill, before you leave that,
yeah.
can I ask, Alabama Rivers Alliance is doing the same kind of group interaction
Yeah.
and supporting new groups coming into being across the state. Do you work with them if they identifying a new group or helping a new group, and you're in there also helping, or vice versa, that if you have a group that you're starting to work with, make sure they're connected in, or what's the relationships there?
Well, I would say we certainly have talked with them, and my wild guess, which I think is about right, we have at least 50% overlap in our groups. So there are many groups with the Rivers Alliance that monitor. Even Liz Salter, who's a staff member of the Rivers Alliance, is a water monitor and a Alabama Water Watch trainer. So there's quite a lot of connection there and partnership. On the other hand, not enough, not as much as we might do, especially with the new groups, or a group that is going and is starting to falter a little bit, you know, like early intervention, you know. Before your DOA, we want to stick the IV in and get you all pumped up and maybe try to tackle things that, you know, are constraints to groups. Because some of our groups are really struggling. Some of our groups don't know if they're going to be around in 2 years, 3 years, you know. And there's all kinds of reasons for that. If you're interested, we did a study that was published in a journal called Society of Natural Resources, and we have plenty of reprints if you want to really look into it. But this is an analysis of about 240 groups of Alabama Water Watch and their longevity, their distribution. We did all kinds of correlations off the census data with level of education, with household income, with population by county, and found some amazing statistics. So I'm just waving this. If you want a copy, we'd be glad to get you one for free. Okay, so we want to move on here a little bit. I'm crunching on my time, but the next level, of course, is Alabama Water Watch. And today, at least my part, I don't want to start getting specific about here's the association and here's the program and here's this and that. I want to talk about it in its broadest support system. You know, we're just the next bowl in the cabinet that the groups are lending support to their monitors, but then we, as Water Watch, would like to be that support network in every way, moral support, technical support, in any way to help our efforts, to help our vision advance. And there's, you know, of course, here's a healthy group of trainers a few years ago. These folks were coming in for a training of trainer workshop. We have 40 trainers, veteran monitors, who've gone through that next level and are conducting about 80% of our workshops a year now. And so that's just an invaluable group. And our program is 18 years and counting, and that's getting pretty close to 20 years. Very few state programs last that long. So again, something's happening to keep this whole thing chugging along. We've had about a little over 60,000 data records come in, a battery of records. The chemistry has those 6 tests, as you know. Bacteria records tend to be in triplicate. So we've got 60,000 records. It's for some streams, it's the only record of water testing ever been done. So universities, the state, the feds, whatever, they're just not there. And they're certainly not there monthly for 10 years, 15 years. So again, the stock is going up in terms of the value of the information. And we want to capitalize on that and really push that to let the world know who we are and what we're doing. We do have the 2 arms. We have the university-based program, we met the staff, and then we have a nonprofit 501c3 incorporated association. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that. I'm going to touch on it, and then Mike's going to really get into the case study, like why do we exist or why should we exist as a nonprofit. And then Jamie, the new executive director, is going to get even more into detail with our strategic plan that we've been developing over many months. Success stories, you know, nobody wants to gather data to go into a bottomless pit or a file or whatever. Just do it. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody, because some people just want to monitor, and then somehow they trust that the numbers go somewhere and do something. But most of us want to know. And we could talk about success stories because maybe they're the best kept secret. Because we run into people, well, why do I keep monitoring? Nothing really happened. And I thought, wow, I wish you could sit in our chair for a day or a week or a month, because our phones are ringing on all kinds of success stories. Patty mentioned Tom's, the town of Magnolia Springs group, you know, and how they used WaterWatch data, as did Wolf Bay, to get outstanding Alabama water use classification of their water body. Wolf Bay did it a few years ago, and that was the first bay in the state to do so. And ADEM readily admitted WaterWatch data tipped the scales. It helped them know where the water was justified in being OAW. There was a significant policy change. The Lake Martin group, very active in the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, relicensing of Lake Martin. And Lake Martin data and citizen data is prominent in the way this 40-year license is going to go, one way or the other. And it has to do with rule curves and shoulders and when the lake fills and when it drains and what is its pool levels at various times and what level of eutrophication is going on and what about turbidity and what about oxygen and what about stratification. So where do they look? A lot of it is WaterWatch data. Stormwater. The work, you know, Judy and others, Tom McCauley right here on campus, they're relying on WaterWatch data for supplement, complement, sometimes the only data that's there. We want to do more in that area, and we've got opportunities. Our wet labs mobilized, we're even running samples for the cities now, and we hope to expand on that. So success stories are, you know, the big ones. They're like all success stories, few and far between, or they wouldn't maybe be called high-level success. But there's the local, you know, I found the broken pipe, the city fixed the broken pipe, the public park where the kids are playing is much safer now. One was just found in up north Smith Lake in Addison, you know, and the principal of the school and the town are working on it, you know. And it was done diplomatically. There's no club, there's no lawsuit, there's no heavy hitting, but it's just a partnership of trusted people that are getting at it, finding it, and fixing it. So there's all kinds of things. We'd love to make those stories more prominent using our website and our communication tools and all of that. Okay, just finally to wrap up this part, we have this international thing we're calling Global WaterWatch. And this is obviously a global network of groups like Alabama WaterWatch. We have been working in 9 countries for 15 years now. We have some very exciting new activities. Sergio and I will be going to Peru in September, and there's 2 or 3 new groups on top of one that's been going now a couple years. The group in Mexico has now got about 5 trained trainers. They've done workshops in 16 states of Mexico, and they're getting more and more and more demand. It might be the first water watch group that goes national. And so we can partner with these folks. You know, there's all kinds of things, there's all kinds of opportunities. Here's Sergio on Lake Titicaca, you know, the high altitude. You wanna get some elevation sickness, go to Lake Titicaca. It looks like the Gulf Coast. It looks a little oily to me, but that's water. And I thought, no, it's not Lake Martin. We know those. Whoop! How did I do that? I think I pushed the wrong button. Anybody want to help me fire up while I keep That was supposed to be a pointer. Oh, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, we were saying, you know, we know those boats are getting a little big on Lake Martin, but you know that's we know this is not Lake Martin. This is Peru, and like I say, there's a neat new water watch group going on there. Okay, so transition here. Where do you fit? Which bowl are you in? Are you Lone Ranger, or have you got a global vision? You know. Would you like to go to Peru and interface with this group? You know, we're thinking study tours, we're thinking exchanges. How about a Peruvian on your couch? You know, there's all kinds of things we can do together to build this and to value add, so that when we go for large money, maybe whatever big international foundations, they say, well, we want Water Watch to do this in various places, including Alabama. World Wildlife Fund is partnering. Legacy, there's others, different groups. We have a group in Kentucky that called us up and has offered us a contract to help a small group in coal country get on their feet with water monitoring. So there's many opportunities, and so I'm just challenging you, what level of activity do you fit into? Where do you want to go? Where do we want to go? And that's where you get input to your board, to us as a staff of the program. So we want to hear from you. Okay, let me move here. I mentioned our Global Water Watch activities. This book, community-based water monitoring book, we're going to press with on Monday. It's been this long-term, hard project, about 7-8 years in the making. But it's our manifesto. It prominently features Alabama, but it has the other 8 country areas and what we've done right and wrong, lessons learned, a real synthesis of how it might be done in a new place. Cambodia just asked us to put in a proposal. Guatemala just asked us to put in a proposal. So there's a lot of stuff out there in the wings, and we're hoping to be able to respond to those opportunities. Global Water Watch Incorporated, we're working with a lawyer in Montgomery as we speak, and we're filing incorporation papers for Global Water Watch. And last night in our board meeting, our association voted and approved becoming an affiliate of Global Water Watch, Inc. So we're going to see this umbrella group, and again, it's that bowl that holds the big salad at the picnics, and Water Watch Association is going to sit in that along with the Mexicans and the Peruvians and the Filipinos and others, and so we're really quite excited about that. So again, think about it and have input, because that's hopefully a structure that you can relate to and get excited about and help us direct the vision. Now, just to wrap it up, we think of Alabama Water Watch like a milk stool or a triangle, okay? We sometimes talk about 2 arms, but Alabama Water Watch is really the group, the program at the university here, and the association. And when we think about that over the years, there's those of you, and maybe this is a view that's too prominent and we need to correct it. They think about monitoring groups, just calling the program, you know, I need chemicals, I need this, could you give me a workshop about data interpretation? We love this arm of the triangle, but this is just one. And we want to give ourselves a full three-legged stool here. Others would perhaps know that the program and association has been working hand in glove for 17 years. I mean, the association started virtually the same year as the program. And the flow of resources, the financial resources, the ideas, you know, just the support has been strong and I think vital. We want to strengthen this and we want to define it, but the one that's really the sleeping giant that we feel has been neglected is an appreciation of the groups to the association. And that's what Mike and Jamie are going to drill down to. We want to think about this line today and to put the association, or let's call it the nonprofit side of Water Watch, the grassroots, more prominent, more relevant, more visible, more supportive of your groups. And so with that, you know, we're going to change it over unless you want to just have a little feedback or discussion on those points. If anything is real pressing with you. I guess I could say, do you still believe, or do you believe in Water Watch, that mission? We've had some catchy phrases, but to me, they become quite powerful. One that just always comes back to me, when somebody says, well, what is Water Watch? I hope you can kind of respond. It's community-based and science-based watershed stewardship. Community-based and science-based watershed stewardship. Pretty succinct, but it grabs the whole grassroots element. This is not white lab coat pros, government come by once every 3 years and stick a probe in the water. This is grassroots, community-based, but not seat of the pants, winging it, sloppy data. It's science-based. We have techniques. We care about our data. We have quality assurance plans with EPA approvals and all that. So you put together that people side with that technical side, and what are you doing? You're stewarding a watershed. You know, we're looking broadly at land use and water quality, condition and trend of water, and we just hope that that's a mission and message that gets out there. And one last point, and then Mike, if you would, it's a way to make resource management, in this case water management, more democratic. You know, we were at the Tallapoosa State of the Watershed Conference. We talked about the three big elements, you know, the government and market forces, you know, corporate, business, industry. And there's this missing piece often. It's called civil society. It's called us. It's called the people. And we're just trying to make that triangle a little more balanced. People at the table saying, this is what I want Smith Lake to look like down the road. It doesn't have to be a total business corporate thing or a government thing driving the bus. How about the three elements working together? So our voice has got to be that civil society or that private public voice that comes out and interacts well with government and with the market. Okay? So that's a little bit of a jumping off point. Mike's been spending a little bit of time. He's our point person on what we're calling our case study for our nonprofit Water Watch.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, I'm going to talk about what we were talking about, developing a case statement for Water Watch. And this is really about the future. If you think about the last 18 years, Water Watch has developed a well-deserved reputation for excellence across the board. And so it's important to keep that in mind as we talk about these things. At the same time, as we look at the future, there are questions we need to ask, there are issues we need to address, because 18 years of success in the past is no guarantee of success in the future. The funding mechanisms that worked in the past, that have been relied on for a long time, may not be there in the future. And the question is, how do we prepare Water Watch in the best way possible to be effective from the individual monitor level all the way up to the global level? Because there's clearly a need. So presentation, this conversation I'd like to have is really about that. It's about how do we make a case so that everyone, from folks who are currently involved to those who are not currently involved, how do we make the case that Water Watch has significant value that everyone at every scale should be supporting? Because we need to be able to answer that question in a very clear and substantial way if we want to ensure Water Watch's success in the future. Well, just to use this triangle thing for a little different reason, you know, we often talk about it. Bill talked about the different elements of Water Watch, the groups and monitors, the program, and the association. And we do that sort of like a prism, you know, so that we can, it's sort of like physiology. You look at the liver, the lungs, the kidneys, but they really can't function on their own. So when we're talking about Water Watch, we're talking about the white light, and we separate it, like through a prism, so that we can understand the different elements. But Water Watch is not Water Watch without all of this. And as Bill said, the association part of it has sort of been the stepchild out here kind of drifting. And it's our belief that if Water Watch is to be successful and strong in the future, that this integrated thing that's Water Watch, including the association, needs to be very vibrant, very strong, showing a lot of commitment in the state and beyond to this whole idea of Water Watch. Last year, if you were here last year, I mentioned this book, Blessed Unrest, which I find a brilliant book, written by Paul Hawken. And I've got a number of quotes here that I think are very relevant. And he says, you know, to be sanguine about the future requires a plausible basis for constructive action. You can't describe possibilities for the future unless the present problem is accurately defined. There's another guy named Jim Collins who wrote a book called Good to Great. And that book is about what enables an organization, any kind of organization, to go from being mediocre or merely good to truly great. And one of the things that all those organizations that have made that leap do is they, what he calls, confront the brutal facts of their current reality while remaining hopeful. They're willing to tackle the toughest issues. They don't ignore them. So let's just take a step back here. And to be sanguine about the future in terms of Water Watch, what does that mean to you? What does success in the future for Water Watch look like, either for the organization or for the water you care about? If you were to define that, what would you say? What do you hope to see?
Conservation of resources.
Pardon?
Conservation of resources so that future generations can enjoy.
Conservation of resources, okay?
For the future.
Okay.
Improved balance.
Pardon?
Beyond.
Improved balance.
What do you mean by improved balance?
Well, striving to try not to single out one group or, you know, try to improve the overall balance between the three, you know, that Dr. George was talking about earlier. You know, when you're talking about commerce, you're talking about civil society and government, there has to be balance. And when one side gets, when it weighs off, and it kind of relates back to the conference we had in California Watershed a few weeks ago. When one of them gets off tilt, gets too much weight in one direction or the other, it causes a total paradigm shift. And I think it's important that we try to strive for balance. Always try to make sure that one or the other isn't getting too heavy, so to speak. Because we're bombarded as a society every day through multiple media outlets and different publications that tries to pull you in one direction or the other as far as mindset. We just need to make sure we stay focused on the task at hand and be able to try to work to assure some sense of balance in the organization.
Good.
That's just my.
Yeah. Well, just whatever, however that strikes you. What else? What other?
One thing that we're doing to a certain degree is educating our young people, because the older generation has destroyed a lot of things, trash and stuff like that, which destroys our water. And I think some of the schools that I work with and stuff, what they're doing there is just fantastic, because they're getting to the young people in showing the young people the positive side of this thing. Because a lot of us older people they've lost it.
You have a comment? Yeah, Mike.
My feeling is we have to, one person at a time, one community at a time, change the mindset that we have, that too many people have in this state, that we can't have progress without sacrificing the environment. You know, get to the point where people realize they're interlinked, and we have to work towards sustainability, and we have policies in the state, so we're not banging heads with AM. You know, we're working with the state agencies, and they're working with us, instead of having this them and us, you know, you can't have progress without sacrificing the environment.
I think it's really important that we're looking beyond Alabama. I think about the clamor over oil is going to become a squeak compared to the competition for water when the time comes, not if it's going to come, when the time comes. And if we do the right things now, maybe it won't be controlled by Dubai, and we'll have some say-so on how the world's water is spread around.
Well, good. It's good, important to think about this. What would make us sanguine about the future? What would make us feel good about the future that's coming? And really, that's where we should spend most of our time, I think, because that creates a context, a positive, hopeful, aspirational approach or feeling in us as we move forward. But with that in mind, too, you know, we've got to define our current problems accurately. So how does that strike you? If you were to say, what are the issues we need to tackle, either as an entity, Water Watch, or in terms of water quality around the state or beyond, you know, the coming crisis of water is one. What other things occur to you when you think, what are some of the problems we need to accurately define?
As a group or environmental?
And however what strikes you when you hear that question?
Looking at the data presented before this, and this is just from my background. I'm a mission-based, mission-oriented group. We didn't have to tell you. I want to go a strategic way of getting there, and I want to accomplish the mission at hand. That's a military mindset, but it's always worked for me in any group that I've been with. But I would like to see from what I saw there is more active monitors. Now, I had just a little quick insight, I don't want to take up too much time. I had a plan in place. I work with the United States Coast Guard, which is right now it's a very sad thing to say. It's kind of embarrassing because they have yet to utilize my talents down on the Gulf of Mexico, and it's about driven me away from it. But my main mission, so to speak, was to look at water bodies that was not actively being monitored. So I was putting a strategic plan together to go and actually attack the Tombigbee River system. It's going to take a lot of, I was going to have to drive over there, but at the time I had the money. This was before the economic downturn too, not funding like that. But things like that, having more active monitoring groups and monitors. I mean, 10% I think would be a great initial goal. We said you had, I know a lot of, that was 4,500 certified monitors. Now, that doesn't take into account that some of those individuals may not be with us anymore. I mean, there's a lot of factors there. But just looking at that would be a nice goal for 10%. Because then you got then you kind of increase not only the buckshot, so to speak, or the scatter shot that you have, but you also get more data in. And maybe you always have strong groups around large water bodies, which makes all the sense in the world. I think those of us who like to stomp the creeks may be sometimes a little bit more challenging because of the obviousness of the geography and things like that. But if we can get those core groups larger, more functional, and then be able to transition in those areas we haven't been able to hit in the state, we can use that as a model for a much broader mindset with the nation, you know, globally. I think what you guys are doing globally is outstanding, considering, so that's a lot to take on, and to have 80 other countries already involved. I think it's really very positive. But I think there's a lot of things we can look at from what we're doing internally to be able to take it out to the next, out beyond it, and be able to provide a lot of insight for that.
So the broadening challenge we have is finding a way to invigorate, broaden, deepen our monitoring base. What other problems would you define? Yes, sir.
Something that always, I love this organization, so I don't want to mistake this. I've always felt that the goodness of what we do is one reason why I'm part of it. But I wonder about what the effect is on how we manage our watersheds, and more globally than that, but right now I'll be very narrow about our particular watershed. That there's a challenge. You want development, and you want the water to be good and clean. You want us to be happy residents. We all have some dog in this fight. We care, but I've never seen us make progress through Water Watch that would be organized towards some kind of structure, some kind of format where watersheds locally, regionally, nationally might in fact be managed. And specifically, my concern would be that of effectively managing development, which I feel right now is probably not very well developed. The surprises of having reservoirs built in adjacent states and things like that impact the watershed there's no structure for it. So I'm not sure I'm looking for any kind of watershed structure at the management level, but something that says that there is a guider or a controller or something of the watersheds, and there's a model for that. So that's kind of a rambling around kind of thing, but I just don't see where we go, where we have an influence on the long-term development of the watersheds.
I think we're doing all the right things, except we're just not doing them effectively. The thing you just brought up, what's going on in the Tallapoosa can be emulated in basins across the state. And the people in the movement know what's going on, especially the university and the researcher types, but I'm not sure how to do it, but we need more effective PR and communication to get that out to more communities at the community level. And I think that really all comes back to educating, hand-holding, and getting our groups to emulate what some other groups are doing.
Maybe one more comment. Anybody like to share?
Take the truth up. One thing that I would like to emphasize is when my grandson goes down Saugahatchee, I want him to see darters. I want him to see, catfish, bass. I would like Alabama Rivers Alliance, I would like to see a true value of the flow in the stream, the flow throughout the seasons, a natural flow, the biota, the plants, the animals. And I'd like to see that value, all of those things valued as they should be.
Okay. Well, these are two key questions that we really should keep thinking about, What would make us hopeful for the future? What do we aspire to achieve? And what are the things we need to tackle now to make sure that we can achieve what we want to? Every organization, this is virtually true if not literally true, goes through the same pattern of development. And it starts out slow, hits a point where there's real takeoff, a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, newness, the program builds, and it reaches a level where we don't have to figure out how to do this anymore, we just need to do it. And there's a level of success. This is what that curve looks like. Maybe a little steep, but you get the basic idea. Now you'll notice that what happens is that it's not what people think. It's not this. That curve, when it gets up there, and okay, we got this figured out, now we can just do what we do, there's no such thing as this. There's either this or there's this. Now let me ask you, where do you think Water Watch is right now on this curve? Where would you say? Pardon?
Beginning to, in the steepest part.
You think it's on the left or on the right?
I think there's obviously got to be more that we can learn to do.
There's more that we can learn to do, but having learned to do what we've learned to do, are we still on this upward curve of learning and learning, or are we more over here?
We're just about to reach that point where we're seeing a downward break, but we've got some things going on like Bill's Book and whatever that, you know, we've got a lot of opportunities, and now is the time to jump on those opportunities.
I mean, if you look at the heyday, and I don't remember the numbers, but the number of monitors, the number of new groups, the number of groups, it's not what it was, right? And I don't know how much new blood has come into your groups. Are there a lot of new folks coming into the groups to monitor? No. I really think we're somewhere over here. But all organizations get there. The trick is to catch that before it gets too far and do that. And this is possible. And I'll go back to that book, Good to Great. A lot of organizations have done this. And there are a lot of things that have to do it, but one of the key things is what Jim Collins calls preserve the core and stimulate progress. And what he means by that is, at the same time, you're very conservative and willing to be very bold and radical. You're conservative about your purpose. Why do we exist? And about your values. We value place-based, citizen-based watershed monitoring. Those are values. But at the same time, you're willing to revamp any organizational policy, any organizational practice, any organizational program that allows you to continue to have these cycles where you come up and, okay, you hit a plateau for a while, you work, figure things out. But unless we do more of that, no matter what organization we're involved in, we get this tail off. Yes, sir.
This all ties back into education as well. If you look at the age structure of the group here today, we're all kind of trucking along, and that's been the case for a while. I have two elderly people sitting next to me, well, with canes. I mean, we'll have to have a rehabilitation. But we need, I think, more outreach in terms of younger people and the groups getting more involved. I know when you're younger, you're working hard and raising families and everything, but it seems to me we need to get more into the schools, into the community organizations, speaking engagements, to let people know what we're doing.
And so I think it's a real key point. And so the question is,